Very good afternoon. Welcome to our CPD webinar. For today's session is studying financial KPIs in a real law firm, basically analyzing KPIs in a law firm. This is 1 hour of professionalism CPD credits. And this entails for various provinces across Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, New Brunswick. And we request you to diet as more people are joining in. You might hear some beep noises. Apologize for that inconvenience. We do see more people joining in and would request everyone who's already joined in to only wait for a minute or two. Nice question, Bruce. Yes, KPIs are known as key performance indicators. Basically, these are to know what is exactly like a little alarm button in each and every perspective of your law firm. So let's say, for example, you're managing trust, you're managing general, you're managing various, even the client portfolios, understanding how all of these put together works when it comes to analyzing your finances, and exactly what we're going to discuss in detail today. So key performance indicators, analyzing what are different KPIs when it comes to managing your law firm. Like I said, please allow a minute or two for people to join in, and I can start sharing the slides. In the meantime, just to quickly go over today's agenda, we're going to see various things, how these key performance indicators work. Basically, we are going to split them into 3 different categories, 3 major categories, if I could put it that way. One, trust-based KPIs, basically how to manage your trust accounts and what are these indicators that would be considered important. And, do you analyze, what does it imply? So trust-based KPIs, business-based KPIs, which includes your general accounting and all, and compliance and client-based KPIs. As I mentioned, you would also need to maintain your client portfolios, contact management, matter management, client-based compliances to be maintained. So those KPIs would really mean a lot when it is also based on the client. So we're going to explore on how to track these numbers and provide more insights. Now, these reports, typically generating these reports, if you're a uLaw user, they're readily available in one-click button. So we're going to see how these work and where to start, where money is sitting in trust, how do you bill yourself. That's a key performance indicator. Yes, it does. So we get to see a trust balance sitting in your trust account for more than 6 months. You are immediately on an audit. Why is a retainer untouched in a trust account for more than 6 months? So things like that would put you in a spot. Okay? To avoid such scenarios, these KPIs on a report would indicate that there is a retainer amount sitting in a client's account for more than 6 months or more than 2 years. When was the last time there was any movement in that particular client's matter? That will trigger you to go at particular client's matter even before an auditor is going to question you. The idea of this particular topic, not just from the trust perspective, but from the business and client standpoint too. So we're going to see various things, and would love to anyone let me know on the chat window if I'm audible enough, and, if the audio quality is good, clear. The other hand, talking about business KPIs briefly before I start sharing the slide. Business KPIs are just um, your general business accounting measurable, or you could call it as profitability metrics that will allow you to track your income, your expense, your P&L kind of items. Will allow you to dive deeper into whether there is any specific area where you would like to spend more money or less money. Like, for example, if you're spending more, specific type of office expense, you could bring that down. You could play around with those metrics and values. So any red flag items, you would be able to, this particular KPI report would bring that to your attention. There's not just one report that I would recommend anyone to understand what is a KPI for that particular, if you're working on trust, general, or your business or your client. There's several reports that accumulate out there that cumulatively will be able to help you to arrive at a decision that will, sometimes flag any the files that are out of compliance that needs your attention. So there are several reports. That could be a trust ledger, that could be an invoice balance report, that could be a simple AR report, that could be a office expense ledger report. There are several reports that would have to be downloaded to bring to your attention that these are some things that would need, to be worked on or to be paid more attention to. And that is one of them is definitely business KPIs. And the last part would be talking about client KPIs. Like, for example, how long has a client file been inactive? Has it been untouched? That has balances that we already discussed about when it came to trust. But on the other hand, let's assume that the compliance issue with a client file that's been open for a while, even though the file has been closed and you have not taken any action or closed the file, send client like a closing letter, anything of that sort. That includes definitely, any unbilled matters. For example, you've got dockets in it, but you just simply forgot to raise the bill. So any events that got entered in there or any dockets that got entered in that particular matter never got billed, and you have several $100 or several $1,000 of unbilled items that's readily available for you to bill out and pay yourself. These are again KPIs, client-based KPIs, unbilled matters, active matters. These would need your attention. So definitely, a thorough check on these perspectives where you would need to pay attention. And that's something that cannot be randomly done. So that's why we have a topic that talks about what are KPIs in each of these areas. What are some of the KPIs when it comes to trust compliances? What are some of the KPIs when it comes to general and business KPI tools, if I could say, metrics, right? Profitability metrics and other things. Similarly, when it comes to client KPIs, like inactive matters should immediately draw your attention, saying that, hey, there's a file that I can, see. You have in uLaw, there's a concept called as work in progress matrix. This would allow you to basically, kind of understand if there is any that has billed docket. Like I said minutes ago, these unbilled events would add up to several $100,000 for you to, invoice and pay out, right? So that is definitely part of the client KPIs. Moving on, we definitely start understanding that just entering the data would not be enough for you to track and make sure you're compliant, but ensuring that you complete account for it. recording a docket doesn't mean that it's invoiced. Recording a docket is followed with raising an invoice for you to create an AR and accept the money into the general account, either from trust directly into the general account. This is a cycle. This would be complete only when you're going to be able to follow the process, not until then. So this is exactly where many people think it's more or less like a data quality versus false statements, because many times people think I have a software, so I would pass an audit. I have a software, so I'm compliant. No, having a software would not just do it all, right? Having a software and performing the action completely, not just adding the dockets, but adding the dockets, raising an invoice, transferring the funds from trust to general would complete the process and in turn allow you to arrive at the appropriate data for you to be able to compare and understand the metrics, which is more meaningful. By reviewing these KPIs, you are able to learn how to, end of the day, improve your practice, improve your business, understand which are really red flag items, which are highly critical, actionable items that needs your attention, that needs your, probably a little bit of review. And you don't have to literally do all of this manually. You just have to enter the data. You are already entering the data into the program. But like I said, complete it. Complete the cycle. And then when you download these reports, you would be able to, fill in, understand these numbers. That would start making more sense. So if you are someone who's using uLaw, definitely these are. Is anyone else experiencing interruption? I'm trying to use headphones. Hey, Bruce, is it cutting out or something? I'm trying. Continuously in a specific position for the next 5 minutes. If it's good, let me know. If it's still not good, I would recommend you to switch to the phone audio. If either of you are still on phone audio and this is happening, then I would have to switch to different audio mode. Please let me know. Cutting in and out. Okay. Just like I said, let's observe for next 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, please let me know. Thank you. So that was like a little introductory speech that I wanted to share before I jump into the actual presentation. So the actual presentation itself talks about analyzing different KPIs. It could be something different for each and every area of practice, but pretty similar for most of them. So again, starting off with the trust-based KPIs. I know that most of them are very keen in learning how do we understand these trust balances that have to match exactly with the bank balance, with the books and the bank, and only then you're able to reconcile. Now, these typically will lead to the situation where you have any alarming factors. Now, if you start paying more attention to it, you would be able to obviously make more money, or you'd be able to be more appropriate with your accounts on top of your books, be more compliant. Now, there's always a degree of compliance, right? When I say be more compliant, you could put it this way: you could be compliant and still not be completely compliant. For example, you would mostly have seen basic thing that people would do is get done with their reconciliations. Now, of course, getting done with reconciliation alone doesn't mean you're completely Law Society compliant. Now, that rings a bell. Now, there could be a point that we discussed where when you have a client with balance sitting in the trust account more than 6 months, for more than a year, for more than 2 years, these are really alarming factors. These are like the red flags. they go in the same order, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. So how long has it been since you opened the matter? What is the reason? These are some questions that the auditors would like to understand. Why is this money sitting in there? Why was it never billed and moved out? Or this is where a simple report called as unbilled matters. If you all look at a tab called Quick View in uLawPractice, this is the most least used tab, if I'm not wrong. People use contacts, people use matters, people use accounts. What people don't, many of them use is Quick View. Quick View is like a little library index, whatever I can call it as. Gives you a glimpse of all your matters in one place. Now, there is a document generation button, particular button. If you click on it, you would get a report called Work in Progress, fee and disbursements, respectively. This will give you an overview of what are the clients for whom you have entered dockets, entered disbursement, but you've never billed them. You've missed out to bill them. When you do this like once a month, not very often, once a month, right? And then that will give you a clear picture of what is it that you've missed, actionable items that you need to bill out and move and things like that. So if it is greater than 6 months, that's when it starts catching attention of law society. Why is a file? That is actually considered non-compliant. So when people still reconcile their books and they are still considered non-compliant when you don't fall under these categories, you don't complete these, right? So some of them includes paying pending trust transfers. You have more pending trust transfers. You've not moved the money out of the trust account. So it's sitting in there. Well, it's yours. You might as well raise invoices and move it. So that's when the unbilled matters start paying you. So basically, when you have money sitting in there in the trust account, you don't have invoices, you raise the invoices, then you'll automatically be able to move that money from trust to the general. So simply understanding your reconciliation status, whether you have reconciled your books, when did you last year reconcile your books, and definitely anything more than a month. Let's say, for example, as of today, if someone has not reconciled their April, they're considered out of compliance. But someone who has done it till April, but just in the process of doing their May, they're considered compliant. So anything beyond that 1 month, you've not reconciled, meaning not compliant. So your non-compliant status is readily available under FinTech dashboard in uLaw, which is going to blink saying non-compliant, or which is going to highlight to you saying not compliant, something like this that you see on the screen. Pending trust transfers, not only it's about paying yourself, it also talks about raising invoices, unbilled dockets. Are you compliant with law society? Anytime audit ready, because these KPIs, these indicators, if I could say, are so it's called as key performance indicators. They are, whether your trust is reconciled, whether the balance has been moved, or whether it has been billed out, unbilled matters has been taken care of. All of these start making more sense to you when you connect them to both trust-based and business-based KPIs, where you ensure your firm is compliant and you're able to handle your client's money more wisely, and you're able to give the invoice with details as to what is the reason that you're moving the money out of trust. That's what auditors would like to see. I don't want a flat fee. I mean, technically you are allowed to do flat fee, but you would want to give a description saying this was for this reason. And then you have some disbursements and what is the reason of the disbursements. And then you invoice and you move the money from trust to the general. While you do that, your invoice speaks for the reason why you're moving the money of trust to the general. There are definitely a lot of strict controls on how a firm is allowed to move the money, on how you can handle your business funds. And definitely these space KPIs and allow you to be audit ready at any time. Hope the last 5 minutes is okay. Do I need to still switch to another audio version? Please let me know. Who are printing on the chat window especially. Okay. I mean, still having issues here. I'll try phone, I guess. Yes, please. I would phone audio, but I hope it's not my headphones because I used it for the previous meeting and it was fine. Please kindly try to use the phone. I'll give you the phone coordinates just to make it easier for you. Please bear with me. Here's the phone audio. Thank you. Going back to the trust-based KPIs on to not just to stay compliant, these based KPIs also indicate what you can earn from these outstanding invoices. Like, for example, some unbilled matters, lawyers or paralegals not even aware sometimes to how much money is lying in their trust, out of which how much of the work has been completed, how much has been paid as dockets but have missed to be raised as an invoice. So once you start paying attention to this report that says unbilled, you would also get to see some lawyers get to pay themselves. These work in favor of both, and not just for the compliance reasons, but also for the sake of paying yourself. Right? Similarly, business-based KPIs. So business-based KPIs are basically to measure your P&L items, like, your profit and loss items that shows a lot of details on metrics as to how much of revenue was, how much of it was a profit and loss, comparison to previous months, previous years. And this allows you to be able to pay yourself accordingly, or you want to leave the money in the business, or you want to, reduce the expense anywhere. So these KPI items, if I could put it that way, or these key performance indicators, basically tools that would enable you to analyze where your firm can do better, what are the certain practice areas which is not doing good. Maybe you wanna switch, or you wanna pay more attention, or you wanna do some sort of marketing, invest time and energy in understanding these stats, so you're able to bring more profit or distribute your profit appropriately. Sometimes it will also be a lot of profit in there, but when you start recording business expenses appropriately, we start making more sense. We also have this business-based KPI metrics that help you to track your expense, as I mentioned. Some of these have expense by category. There's a specific under analytics, you would be able to pull out this widget, or even you could pull out a report that talks about expense by category, where expenses listed out based on category. As office expenses, under office expenses, you'll see subcategories. would be client expense, some would be personal out of pocket, some would be drawings. And, studying these insights would allow you as a firm to take important decisions based on the expenses that's being made. Whether you'd like to do more of these, you'd like to spend lesser on any specific area. This will in turn allow you to work more on something called as build versus collected. Now, these business KPIs also help you to study your cash flow metrics. Many times, we spoke about unbilled matters. That would bring to your attention saying that, hey, there are some dockets in these particular matters that needs to be billed out, and either you transfer money from trustee general or you pay into the general. On the other hand, we have a report called as invoice balance report. This particular report would give you an idea as to how much of it was invoiced, how much of it was collected, how much of it is still outstanding. Generally, both of these billed versus collected report should merge. These lines should not have too much of variance. Like if you look at it over here in Jan, there's a lot of variance in some of the months. Some of the months, the two lines meet. If you see specifically in the month of May and June, the lines meet. You see, in the month of March and April, there's a huge difference. You have billed about 5K or 6K, but you've collected about 3K or 3.5K. So typically, there's like about 1.5K of balance that's still outstanding. So any delta gap that you see between these two lines, this particular report that talks about billed versus collected, should indicate that something is wrong, something is off. And that will allow you to go back and revisit that particular report called invoice balance report. Gives you a clear picture of all the matters that were billed but failed to collect. These are known as nothing but AR. In the other language, we say accounts receivables. So again, it adds to your general business and revenue. For someone who's striving to make their profit, that particular report would be adding more meaning to their books. So again, business, one of the major reports, billed versus collected, would be under business KPI. And it's definitely attributing to your general account revenue. Right. Moving on to client-based KPIs. Before that, I'd like to take a pause to see if there are any questions. Just want to let you all know this is a webinar of professionalism CPD credits. This webinar is called Analyzing KPIs in Law Firm. We'll be sharing the reports towards the end, so please watch it towards the end for the same. Thank you. No, I don't think so, Bruce. Could be maybe. Let me check. Thank you. Is it any better now? Let me know if it's better now. I'm literally speaking into the mic. Oh my God. Okay. So looks like it's my headphones. Right. No problem. Okay. Like I have a makeshift here. I have placed my phone mic in such an angle that I'm literally speaking into the mic anymore. So I hope it doesn't bother anyone anymore. All right, quickly moving on to client-based KPIs. So we saw so far trust-based KPIs and we saw business-based KPIs. Client-based KPIs, not going to be attributing any sort of revenue or income, but this is going to help you to measure or either show you metrics as to what are the matters that were created, that was not taken action, what are some of the clients where you've received funds and you've not taken any action there, you've not added dockets or you've not added invoices, you've not created. So some of these metrics at law firm can really go a long way to indicate what are the dormant active matters. So how can an active matter be dormant? Well, when you have not made any sort of activity or any sort of taken any action in it, in this case would be unbilled matters or anywhere you've collected funds, it's not being moved. So those are some key performance indicators that would allow you to take action, allow you to go back, revisit those client matters. You would have had, like I said, events that were recorded but not billed, events that were billed but money is still sitting in the trust, not moved. So the first one is called unbilled matters. The second one is called pending trust transfers. While, you have total of 18 unbilled matters or events, and then you have to start paying attention to it. You go generate that report, go into each and every client, understand why client's matter was created, dockets were created, but nothing happened after that, right? Sometimes genuinely the client would have retained you but never got back. So those may be like a ghost client. Then you have to send like a non-engagement letter. You have to see if you have to refund that client or if you have no contact or anything of that client anymore, and the client's missing in action, then you have to then talk to Law Society and move the funds to their common account, right? So there are different ways in which these could, instead of waiting to be audited and the auditor to tell you the actionable items, you would proactively do this with help of a software that would highlight to you as key performance indicators. And in client-based KPIs, many times we would just skim through, we would just skip it, or we would just, simply, miss out or ignore whatever I could say. But these particular tools would definitely help you to understand what are the unbilled items and needs your attention, and then you could close the file. And typically, those will help you to make more money and also stay compliant and be on track, right? So client-based KPIs would help you to stay compliant with the client matters and also their respective trust in general. Similarly, with quality KPIs, you're making sure that Compliance is all about competence. You're able to make your trust reconciliations month on month. You're having your general and trust at par. You have indicators that show clearly all the revenue, expenses. Your expenses are much lower. Sometimes it's at par. You're able to account for every single money that you have gotten into your account and gotten out of your account, that is deposit and withdrawals respectively, so that your data that's being analyzed is up to date and you're able to measure these KPIs based on the real and true reports than not just something that is false, right? Because many times we add data and we forget to follow up with the data. That is when they become unreal. That is when, like, for example, you would have a client with details in it, but there won't be a complete report, whereas in comparison, you would have client details with complete report, which would add more meaning and value to it. So it is important that all metrics like the KPIs that we're talking about here are not real. Some of them can be unreal, some of them can be false, some of them can be misleading. So don't fall for everything. Ensure that you have entered the data correctly. That will be your step 1. You have completed them. That will be your step 2. You revisit them regularly. That would be step 3. Revisit, I mean, download reports like unbilled matters, download reports like invoice balance report, download reports like, expense category to find out where you really need to invest more time. So, that would definitely help you to understand where the real test is. And, sometimes these wrong alarms would not signal the right thing. So make sure that when you are doing something and it is completed, and then you move on to the next step. Perfect. I do see some comments here. Okay. Anyone has any questions that you'd like me to go in detail, because I'm going to quickly switch over to uLaw to show you all how some of these KPIs are available in our software that is right in front of you. Just needs you to pay a little attention to what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. So I'm going to walk you through this. Okay. Okay, so in uLaw, the very first thing that I would recommend anyone to do is always to check on these document generations. So most of these tabs, actually all of these tabs, would carry a document generation. When it comes to client KPIs, definitely you could do a client fee book, you could do a source of contact, you could do an aging analysis. You could understand as on a specific date, what are the outstandings, and that would also give you an idea of what needs to be billed and everything. Similarly, when you're in quick view, right, best below that, we spoke about unbilled or work in progress, right? So unbilled matters are available under work in progress. This would give you idea of unbilled fee. And, let's say this whole month, or let's take 31st May, you worked on several matters. Is there anything that is pending that you missed to bill out, right? This particular thing would give you, see, in this case, it gave me 2 of clients where I'm yet to generate invoices, obviously, because there's only about 10 minutes here. This has about 60 minutes. So, you've probably not done much, and it's not much. It's only been within the month. So, but if you do this for like a year, or for the entire 6 months, let's say date range, I would go yearly, let's start of this year, and then that would give me a little bit more idea of how much of the bills were unbilled this month. Yeah. So look at this over here. It has a bigger list. Okay. So this is a report by itself where you can make so much money, right? Or on the top of it, I could say that you would be able to make 3,000, and then there's 1,500, and then there's another 1,000. So you could go about invoicing those clients and transfer those funds into your trust account from there. For instance, let's say for Leo Nelson, I figured that it was in February. It's been more than. So I need to go into Leo's file, and then I would need to go into their purchase file. If I go into the matter, is there anything in there? No, there's nothing. I've not invoiced anything. So is there any other Leo Nelson? And then I would go in here. I would try to see if there's a balance. Yes, there's a balance. Go to the matter. And then there's an invoice pending. This is the one. So you would immediately click on invoice. You would complete it. And then you would go backdate, obviously, because I missed to raise an invoice that day. So I want to do it backdated. Okay. That will allow you to pay yourself $1,000 plus taxes, or including disbursements, and then you complete it. Of course, if you're in Ontario, you download a Form 9A and you move on. So with just one single report, you would be able to start making funds. You'd be able to pay yourself. Similarly, if you go into matters, you have several documents here that would contribute to your like KPIs. Some of them are simple. They're like timesheets. There could be some that are more like a statement of activities that would show you pending trust transfers and right. Similarly, if you go into accounts, over here, my favorite is definitely invoice balance report. I would pick a end date, let's say as on 31st May, then I would click on download. Okay, let's wait for the report to generate. Meantime, the other reports are readily available under document generation. This would give you an idea of your expense book. You can also do your expense by category. So if you go under analytics, you have something called as, first of all, Ask AI and Analytics and Amuse Me. These three tabs will give you vast picture of what the software is trying to tell you based on your inputs. But if you go into analytics, and then you could also do something called as expense chart by category. Let's say you pick a specific quarter, and then you say go, and it gives you like this particular quarter, how much is it that you've spent on, and yeah. Okay, that gives you an idea of your fees paid, rent, printing, stationery, and all. And Ask AI would give you an idea of compare income and expense. So this gives you like a little analysis, but your KPI is mostly available under the reports that I just generated. Ready for download. Well, these reports definitely make a lot of sense to you. You will start gathering information and it will allow you to go back and work. While the other reports getting generated, let me show you all how this unpaid invoice balance report. We spoke about unbilled matters. That was the initial one. That'll allow you to go back and bill and pay yourselves from the trust in general. But unbilled, as in the statement of invoice balances will show you how much of it. So there's a particular client for whom you've raised invoice, they've missed to pay, and then you can go over it. You can see some of the matters that are pending for years together. You could just go back and revisit them and understand. I mean, since this is like a little playground account, it doesn't, it doesn't carry real information, but in real life, you wouldn't see something that goes back to 5-6 years that is untouched, that is showing like client outstanding. They should be typically limited to like 6 months. In the last 6 months, if you have anything outstanding and stuff. Okay. So that report will also summarize you towards the end. It'll tell you like some of the clients which are more than 6 months, which are more than a year. Pending trust transfer is technically more. Client outstanding is lesser. Go back in there, you get this particular report that I just generated that talks about expense book, gives you like this whole month. What are the expenses that were made and how much of it was an office expense, how much of it was a client expense, what was the taxes paid. So gives you an idea as to where you could bring down your cost. This particular pie chart, my favorite. So you can try to work. See, these are some of the KPIs that would not really work for the compliance sake, but for your internal business. That's why it's called as business KPI. So you could take a look at it and see how much of it was fees paid. These are disbursements, right? And then this is your expense on transaction account disbursement too. This was for printing and stationery. And then your major part was for rent. So it gives you an idea of this month, how much you've spent and all with the split up. All right. So any specific questions that any of you would like to see? That's more of today's seminar, but if you have any specific questions, I would love to repeat whatever we discussed today. But just to summarize, KPIs are key performance indicators, and they're broken up into trust, business, client-based. Well, in trust, I would highly recommend someone to take a look at unbilled matters and pending trust transfers. Any client with balances, trust balance report, any client with balances in trust that's sitting in there. All of these generally show up as part of your trust reconciliation. The last page is important for you to check. Similar to that, you also have your general KPIs, business KPIs that talks about, again, unbilled matters, invoice balance reports, anything that the client outstanding and all of it. And lastly, the client KPIs shows you any dormant activity accounts where you've not worked on for more than few months, and that would also allow you to gather the information and either if you need to close the files or rework on the files, and it adds up from there. I'd love to see if anyone has any questions, but in the meantime, I'll start sharing the attendance link and the information for today's webinar. I would also like to make announcement for people who are in the GTA region. Next Friday, we have in-person seminar happening in Richmond Hill area. So we would not be conducting this 2 p.m. because it's happening in person, but it's happening in the morning half, the first half, happening from 10:30 to 1:30. It's on everything practice management with a little networking. Even we have a couple guest speakers. We have our CST, client success and support team present there to help you out. If you have any questions, you're welcome to bring your friend and benefit from the 90-minute CPD session as well as, the networking event. So if you are someone who is interested, please use this link to register. And if you have any question from today's topic as well, I request you to kindly use the chat window and let us know if you have any specific question. Thank you. I've entered the CPD attendance link. And for those who are in the GTA, please don't miss this opportunity to drop by. We have limited seating capacity. We have a few who have already registered. We do have a few more seats. So if you're looking to book, please get off this call. Once you get off this call, kindly book so we could have you, you know. Thank you so much. It's happening in the Oak Ridge branch, Richmond Hill Public Library. I have the venue, CPD topic with the link, which I'd be sharing here. Please click on the link and register. Thank you. You're welcome to share this with your friends too. Once again, thank you everyone for joining in today. If you have any questions, you could please let me know on the chat window. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. So there won't be any webinar at 2 p.m. next Friday. As I mentioned, we'll be doing the in-person event. So if you're interested, please click on the link in the chat window and register for the event. Thank you.